The geeky dad of the week is...
Comic creator Caleb Palmquist is with us today to talk about his new Kickstarter. Check it out. Okay, everybody, we have a special guest with us today. Caleb Palmquist is with us. Now, Caleb, you have a Kickstarter coming out, right?
I have a Kickstarter that's live right now. Yep.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yep. It's called Dragon Grit. It's the first issue in a new fantasy Western series.
I love the concept, by the way. You know.
Oh, thank you.
I love when they mix like Westerns with other like genres. You know, I like sometimes when they mix like Westerns with sci-fi. I love that. I love like steampunk meets like Western stuff, like, you know, and I haven't seen many fantasy elements with the Western genre.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few, but I think that I am maybe the first one I've seen on Kickstarter, at least, that has cowboys riding dragons.
I mean, that's a cool image right there. You know, it's a cool image.
Yeah.
Was that image in your mind before you even like scripted the whole thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so I co-wrote and co-created this project with my wife, Lorelei Jonason, who's a novelist. And her kind of favorite genre of or subgenre of stories is Dragon Rider stories. And I really like Westerns, like Tombstone is probably my favorite movie.
I love Tombstone, yeah.
Yeah, and so we kind of came up with this idea of merging our two favorite things with each other, and definitely I had this very distinct vision of a cowboy on a dragon. So it's yeah,
it's a cool image. And you know, have you thought about maybe approaching it as a novel first before you did it as a comic book?
We did. We actually originally plotted it out as a novel, and we actually wrote about half of the novel before we decided that we actually liked it better as a comic book.
So what was that shift? What caused that shift?
Well, basically, kind of like you said, like that visualization of thinking about how cool is this going to look, and then kind of getting some concept art done, and just realizing that we really wanted to be able to show this on the page,
right?
How cool it was going to look, you know, and also, you know, I think it played into certainly it played into my strengths as a creator to do a comic book rather than a novel, and I think we made the right choice because it's being very well received. A lot of people are interested in it.
Yeah, and this is not your first comic book series, right?
Oh, no. So I've done a bunch of comic book series. I'm probably best known for my series Unicorn Vampire Hunter.
And that is also a great concept. So you always seem to be merging the two genres together, right?
Yes, yeah. And you're gonna love to hear about the other series that I did, which was called Vampire Detective in Space.
Yeah. So how about like a cowboy riding a unicorn?
I don't know if that's been done or not. But you know, if somebody's out there listening to this and wants to make that comic, they definitely should. I think that that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the other one you said?
Vampire Detective in Space.
Okay. That sounds cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I did a book last year, a graphic novel called The Knight and the Lion, which is a Arthurian adventure that's based on a 13th century manuscript.
Oh, okay.
That's about a knight who befriends a lion and they kind of go on adventures together.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's very like that's much different from the other works that you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you come up with these ideas, are you like sort of sketching it out on a paper first before you get to even an artist or anything? Do you have like a artistic
Uh,
background or anything?
I mean, I sometimes draw. I have sometimes collaborated with artists where I've done thumbnails, but for the most part,
Because I would think
no.
like the dragon grid, you would just have that image of the dragon and the cowboy first before you even do the story, you know?
Kind of. I mean, for this one, definitely, I had the idea, and I just I found an artist I wanted to work with, and Kay Woolhiser is the artist, and she's actually the same person who collaborated with me on The Knight and the Lion last
Yeah,
year.
the art is really good. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, really, I didn't draw anything for this one before I started doing it. I just told her what I was envisioning. My Lorelei and I described kind of the characters and the dragons that we wanted to do, and then Kay took that and ran with it. And so I think it's very much as much of a creation of Kay's as it is ours. There's a real collaboration there,
Hmm.
which is my favorite way to do comics.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is it like this is just like how many issues is this gonna be?
It's actually planned as a 10 issue series, which I
Okay.
know is very ambitious.
Very,
Um,
yes.
we had a 5 issue plan and a 10 issue plan, and the book has been very well received. And so I think we have a plan to go hard and heavy with this book. Like we're already starting on issue number 2,
Hmm.
and as soon as this first issue gets delivered, we're going to be back on Kickstarter with issue number 2.
So
So
this
yeah,
this Kickstarter is just for the first issue?
yeah, that's right.
Okay. Okay. So you're gonna be doing a Kickstarter for every issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And hopefully by the time you finish it, you can do another Kickstarter to do a hardcover to collect everything, right?
Yes, yes, that is the plan.
Okay. Well, I mean, I hope you get a lot of success with this. Now tell us a little bit about the storyline without
Sure.
giving away too much.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
Yeah.
So the main character is Vera, who is a former outlaw who now makes her living delivering packages along star routes. So what that means is her and her dragon Blaze take packages out west to dangerous locations that other people uh, aren't necessarily equipped to deliver packages, because she's got to defend them against raiders and
Hmm.
outlaws. And but as we enter the story, railroads are beginning to spread across the West, which is kind of making the services that she offers obsolete. And so she's got to look for new work.
Hmm.
Ends up meeting a young man a young man named Robin, who just inherited his father's estate. And Robin's been back east studying. He's not used to life in the West. And his dragon that he inherited is a wild dragon that's been in their family for years, but she's dying, and she
Oh.
keeps trying to wander away,
Hmm.
and he doesn't know what to do. And of course, Vera figures out that dragons, like elephants, have dragon graveyards that they go back to.
Right, right.
And so Vera agrees to take on the job escorting them across the wilderness, follow the dragon to her dragon graveyard. But as they're going on this quest, on this journey, they're being pursued by an old rival.
Hmm.
And so it's like a travelogue story. It's like a Western adventure um, story about sort of a grizzled old veteran and a young city slicker, essentially kind of teaming up to go across the wilderness.
Hmm.
So it's really paying homage to things like True Grit and 310 to Yuma.
Right, right. Hmm. And you have any like long-term plans besides the 10 issues, or it's just like a self-contained story, just it?
We have definitely written a self-contained story. I mean, I think anybody who comes up with a fun idea in a story world would tell you that there's always possibility for more things
Hmm.
outside of that. But I think we've been ambitious enough with a 10 issue plan. So if we finish all 10 issues, I'll get back to you on that about whether or not there will be future stories.
I
There
mean,
may be.
it's gonna take a while. I mean, you're looking at a couple of years here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think probably the fastest we'll get it done is 2 years, probably 2.5 years. But I would actually say for a comic on Kickstarter, that's a pretty fast pace.
That is
Um,
actually, yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Even some of the big companies can't do that, you know.
Well, we'll see if we can keep up the pace, but I certainly hope so.
So let's get into a little bit about you. Like, when did the love of comic books hit you?
Well, when I was a kid, my dad worked for the newspaper, and so of course we always had the daily newspaper, and my
Hmm.
favorite section naturally was the comic
Yeah.
strips.
Hmm. What was your
Um,
favorite?
well, definitely, I mean, Calvin and Hobbes is the
Ah,
obvious,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I also really liked Foxtrot. I always thought that was very funny.
Okay.
But then, so when I was a kid, I definitely wanted to be just like a newspaper cartoonist. That was
Right.
kind of my big dream. And then as I got a little older, I fell in love with movies and I wanted to be a movie director. I ended up going to film school in
Hmm.
college. And then I did, I always say I'm the next coolest thing after a film school graduate, which is a film school dropout. Um, and and so I ended up being more interested in the writing side.
Yeah.
And I thought I would write movies. And kind of life happens and I was kind of turned off by the film industry. It's a very rough industry to go into. Um,
Yeah.
and so at some point about 8 years ago, I was like, well, I've always loved comic books. And especially as I got a little older, I started reading like the X-Men and Spider-Man, and then I started reading like sort of creator-owned comics. Like the one that was a big influence on me was Brian K. Vaughan's Why the Last Man.
Oh
Was kind of the
yes, I love
That was
that.
kind of the
Yeah.
first book that I read, and I was like, I could make a comic
Have
book.
you read Saga?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That's
uh,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah. And so, but then eventually I was like, you know what? I want to tell stories. This is really what I want to do with my life. And so I just, accrued a bunch of credit card debt making a comic book and then lost a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'm just going to keep trying. And
Uh-huh.
the first few things I did really were not financially successful. But then, a few years ago, I launched Unicorn Vampire Hunter, which was a big success. And ever since then, I've just kind of been continuing to make comics
And
and getting, yeah.
with the success of that, sometimes it feeds into the older projects as well. Some people check out the older stuff, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you gone to like on the road with the books you did, like go to signings around different comic book shops?
Well, I've certainly done conventions.
Hmm. Conventions. Okay.
Before the pandemic, I was doing a lot of conventions.
Hmm.
And they got really, I got burnt out pretty hard because I was going to like every convention I could
Yeah.
possibly
Yeah.
go,
It's a lot.
traveling. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then, but then, post pandemic, I've been doing less, but I still do some. I do like 1 to 3 a year, kind of
Hmm.
depending on what works out. And I found that that's a much better pace for me because when I go now, I can be excited and really get excited talking to people and have a good time, and I don't feel like I'm stressed about
So
whether
you
or
like
not
the
I.
interaction.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
my favorite part. Like, because
Hmm.
that's because when I go to a convention, especially if it's one that I've been to before,
Right.
I always get people coming up to me who either backed my books on Kickstarter
Right.
or who bought the book last year
Uh-huh.
and want to see if there's another one.
Uh-huh.
And that's such a good feeling.
And then you also like meet other creators when you're there too.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yep.
You're like have you made new friends like with other creators and like made a lot of connections?
Oh yeah. I mean, I would say that like you've got your online friends and you've got
Mhm.
your like real life friends, I
Right.
suppose.
Right.
But I would say all things being equal, the vast majority of my friends at this
Mhm.
point are people I've met through comics,
Right.
people I talk to every day, whether I'm collaborating with them or sharing notes or just getting hyped about comics with them. Whether that's people I met at conventions or just people I met online.
Right.
But I've definitely made a lot of friends. I've always been a very social person, and
Mm-hmm.
so, I've really embraced that community, and that's been a lot of fun for sure.
Have you ever tried to maybe like when you're at the convention, do you try to like give a publisher like take a look at my book, you know?
I One of my biggest opinions or soapboxes is that I'm actually very anti-publisher.
Oh, okay.
Now that's it's a more complicated than that.
Right.
Here's what I'll say. I
Mm-hmm.
am If there was a publisher that approached me and was excited about what I was doing, I
Mm-hmm.
would never just turn them away automatically.
Right.
But I would say that the world is getting smaller and smaller, just like what Kickstarter has done for comics, what YouTube did for filmmakers
Right.
20 years ago.
Very true.
It's like anybody can do this. And I will tell you, I've had publishing deals,
Mm-hmm.
and the most I ever made, the biggest check I ever got from a publisher was $125. Um, Now, if you look at my Kickstarter history, you'll see that I've made a lot more money than that
Right.
doing Kickstarter. Now, there are advantages to publishers, especially, I mean, like, okay, if I was at a convention and Dark Horse or Image was like, hey,
Right.
we want to publish
Right.
your book, I'm not going to say no to that. I'm gonna talk to them and figure out what kind of deal we can work out. That said, I'm also going to have a lawyer review that contract before I
Exactly.
sign anything,
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
that was certainly a mistake when I was a little younger and doe-eyed and getting
Right.
excited about publishers. Um, and so to answer your question, I don't go to conventions like specifically trying to swoon publishers.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always open to those conversations. It's just, I think, the publishers live and die by their creators. And
Mm-hmm.
so to me, I got to know that there's something in it for me, and I'm
Right.
not and
Right.
I'm not just another IP to throw on the slush pile.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
I only said it because I thought that that this comic that you're doing is so cinematic, and you know, I think any publisher would want to grab it, and
I mean, I hope so.
you know,
I certainly hope that they all want to grab it and they
right,
fight over me.
right. Because I would love to see this like adapted into like a big screen, like maybe I don't know, maybe animation or live action, but it would be cool to see regardless, you know.
I mean, I agree. I think
Yeah.
that would be awesome. I would love to see that, but
I,
ultimately,
know, I know it's all pipe dreams. Every comic creator probably sees that, right?
yeah, I would say here's what I would say about adaptations. I would say that while I always think that would be cool, when I make a comic book, that is the medium I envision that story in.
Right.
Meaning that no matter what, Dragon Grit is a comic, starts as a comic, is always a comic. If any of my books get adapted into an animation or a movie or whatever, then that will exist as a separate
Right.
thing.
Right.
And that, like, the purpose and the truth, like, that I put into the story exists in
Mm-hmm.
that comic. And so to me, I don't envision anything as a pipeline.
Right.
And I mean, I ultimately, when it comes to that, if somebody was to come to me and offer me an option for, make Dragon Grid into a movie, and they want to pay me $50,000 or whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll have a lawyer look at it, but then I'll be like, yeah, let's do it. And
Right.
I don't,
Right. Yeah.
because I mean, like, I'm happy to sell out if it
Right.
means that I get paid. But when it comes to the comics themselves,
Right.
that's where my integrity to me really matters.
Right. Now, and I think especially now, I think Hollywood is probably run dry of every of the mainstream stuff already. And they're now rebooting the same stuff over and over that they already did. There's they should be looking at some of the indie stuff. I mean, look at the Ninja Turtles. That was the most indie comic that you could ever see.
Yeah,
And it came out of nowhere. And they took that indie comic and look what they did, you know?
it's true. It's
Almost,
true.
there hasn't been anything since then in the indie world, I think.
to reach that level
Yeah,
of
to reach that
popularity.
level.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're probably right. I
Yeah.
think it's
I don't know why they stopped for some reason. You know?
well, I do think that there are movie studios who are trying to adapt things.
Maybe
I
the
think it's
tick. The tick was also that was like probably the second.
I
Yeah.
think it's hard
Yeah.
to reach that level of
Right.
fame and notoriety for something. But
But you know, a lot of these
yeah.
studios don't like to take chances. That's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's geek out a little bit. What are you geeking out right now over?
What am I geeking out? I mean, the thing that I'm absolutely geeking out about right now is the new Star Wars card game
Okay.
that just came out. It's like it's sort of like Magic the Gathering, but it's Star Wars.
Okay.
And
Are you
so
a
I've
big
been
Star Wars guy?
oh yeah.
All
Oh
right.
yeah.
All right.
I'm a big all those books you see on that shelf right
Mm-hmm.
behind me. Those are all Star Wars books. And yeah, no, I'm a big Star Wars guy, and I know
What's
it's a little cliche.
what is your favorite movie?
Which movie is my
Yeah.
favorite, or which
Star
thing
Wars.
is my
Star Wars.
favorite?
Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, which well, that's a good question. I mean, I think if you're strictly talking about the movies, I really like episode 3. But if you're talking about the everything, I
Everything.
think the Clone Wars
Oh yes.
is definitely my favorite thing,
Man of my own
especially the
heart.
later
There you
seasons.
go. We
Yeah,
cover a
yeah.
lot of Star Wars on our show. Yeah. Have you
So,
been watching Bad Batch recently?
oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm loving this
Blah.
season.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
great. I think it's super good. I love everything Star Wars, and I love the new Star Wars. I have some friends who are very anti-Disney Star Wars, but I kind of love all of it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I'm a big fan, and it probably occupies way more of my brain than it should.
I'm in the same boat. I'm not as in love with, you know, uh the Ray movies as much, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I can agree with that.
yeah.
Those are a little bit all over the place, but um
But I'm still one of the guys that loves the Han Solo movie, so I mean
yeah, there you go.
yeah. So what else? What else do you into?
Uh I mean, uh I'm a big reader, and so I'm always trying to find new books to enjoy,
Hmm.
and I
So
have
I
a
mean,
yeah, go ahead.
you said your wife is a novelist, right? So what are some of the books that she wrote? If
Well,
you want to plug it,
she
if you want to plug it.
the thing that she's publishing right now is called Body Swappers. It's on
Uh-huh.
she's publishing it serially on Substack, so you can read it
Okay.
one chapter at a time.
Okay.
And it is it's sort of like an urban fantasy that's about like basically a world in which a lot of magic, like
Hmm.
beliefs are real, like things like like healing crystals
Right.
and all these other, and like exorcisms.
Mm-hmm.
And the main character is a crisis agent. So basically what she does is she works with clients who have agreed in advance to share their DNA so
Okay.
that a crisis agent can jump into their body, like psychically jump into their
Right.
mind and control them in crisis situations.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, and then it's a super cool magic system, and then it ends up being a murder mystery. But
That's a cool idea. Yeah.
the murder is complicated because nobody knows who actually did the murder. Was it the person
Right.
whose hands did the murder, or someone possessing
Right.
them? So yeah.
I mean, it's great that you can have a partner that is creative, just like you, and you can share your creative output with. You know, it's
Oh
a
yeah.
great idea. Yeah, I'm glad. I wish I had that. Yeah. So yeah, you have any kids or
So I do have a couple of stepkids, and
uh-huh.
then yeah. So um and in fact my stepdaughter does she um reviews the my scripts, or not my scripts, but the finished comics before they go to print, to
Okay.
check them for spelling errors.
Right. Like
And so
how
that's
old
so
are the kids?
um 12, 12, and 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's always fun to do that.
That's
So
cool. That's cool. And how does it feel to be like the stepdad? Like, do
it's
you
good,
feel like
man.
a lot of pressure?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool. I mean, but you're basically the geeky dad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
do you do anything like you ever thought about maybe working on a story with the kids?
I mean,
Coming up with a
that's
storyline, or
if they
you get
expressed
input from them
interest.
with
Yeah,
stories?
if they expressed interest, I mean,
Okay.
with kids, it's do you have kids?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, how
It's
sometimes
called a
it's like,
geeky dad podcast.
yeah. Oh, okay, right, of course, of course. And so, it's like you kind of meet them where they're at, right? So
Right.
like if they express that interest, because you never want to like force it on them, because then it's like they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is lame now,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of like that's kind of where it lands, and that's how the proofreading sort of copy
Right.
editing thing came
Well,
out, is like
yeah.
reading, kid was reading a comic and noticed a spelling error, and then that helped, and then
Right.
they wanted to read every comic to make sure it didn't have spelling errors, and they get that
Right.
credit, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
But so, it's always like meeting them where they're at. That's sort of my philosophy.
Right. Right. And with me, the way I got my kids into Star Wars is that's the only thing we watch in the house, so they have to like it.
I mean, you certainly have a lot of influence over your
Right.
kids, what you expose them
And
to.
now they have shows geared to like pre kindergarten kids now, Star Wars
Yeah.
shows, and to every age, so you can catch them at any age now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So your other comic book, the Unicorn versus Vampires.
Unicorn Vampire Hunter
Yeah. Yeah.
is the title.
So how many issues was that?
It's still going on.
Okay.
We are the artist of that is Daryl Toe, and
And you came up with that yourself or with just wife?
oh yeah.
Okay.
No, so the Dragon Grid is the first thing I've worked on with my wife.
Okay.
But Unicorn Vampire Hunter is something I came up with a long time ago, and um, the artist on that is a guy named Daryl Toe, who's very talented, and
Mhm.
he is currently working on issue 7.
How long
Um,
is that supposed to go?
well, I'll tell you that last year we kickstarted the first volume, the first
Okay.
hardcover, which was issues 1 through 5.
Uh-huh.
And I have a plan for 3 volumes. So we're
Okay.
partway through volume 2. And then with volume 3, we'll be bringing the story to a close.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, we definitely have a decided endpoint for that. And so I think that'll end up being something like 18 issues
Okay.
total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So soon your back shelf will be filled with your books.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the thing that you can't see in the shot right now is all the books that I've like, this is the
Wow,
hardcover.
that's nice. That's very nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got the foil stamping. And so yeah, that one I've been doing. I launched the first issue in 2020,
Uh-huh.
right during the pandemic. And then uh yeah, we did issue 6 and 7 late last year on Kickstarter, and issue 7's almost done, so we're gonna get that out to people.
So
Uh
I got a 12-year-old, and does that book like it's not too scary, right? For the kids?
no, it's I would say almost everything that I write is not written for kids, but is, I would say, all ages appropriate.
Appropriate? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I definitely have, I mean, it's a book about unicorns. So some of my biggest fans are like 12-year-old girls, 8-year-old girls.
You should go to
Um,
like the My Little Pony convention or something.
that's funny because actually, there's a My Little Pony artist named Mary Bellamy who
Uh-huh.
has done a number of prints, like pieces of art for the
Right.
different Kickstarters.
Right.
Um, and so it's been cool to have her work on some of that stuff.
Oh, she
But
did. Okay.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very different vibe from My Little Pony. I mean, it's a story about family,
There's a whole
like found
culture there, you know,
family.
the bronies they call them.
Yeah, for sure. And this is definitely a different vibe than that. But I think, sometimes I get a lot of people who are just very into unicorns. A lot of people who back the Kickstarter for that one, they have usernames like Unicorn Forever or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like people who are like, anything with a unicorn, I'm gonna back it.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's cool. I mean, at least you got a niche there, you know.
mhm.
But thank you for being on the show. How long is this Kickstarter gonna run? Like, and
So it's gonna end on April 5th,
okay,
which is
cool.
a Friday. So we've got about 3 weeks left.
Cool. I hope everybody can back this project. It's a cool project, and check out some of his older projects. They're all cool, interesting, unique stories. And thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.